Okay, let's get this thing recorded. So I'm going to chat about one of the hottest topics I think right now is AI and everything that is going with it because it seems like a lot. And if you click on one ad about AI, you get 400 different ads hitting you that are talking about AI tools, and here you can produce your entire presentation with one click of a button. I mean, we see this like all the time. I even saw one the other day that's recruit for your team and your downline automatically using AI. But the funny thing was when I went and clicked on that ad and went to the page, there was 10 reviews and every one of those reviews said it was a scam. So there's the thing that I want to talk about because we're going to keep seeing more and more about AI, and it's going to keep getting better, and it's also going to be more prevalent. But when is the time to use it? So I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. So for those that have not been here, you guys don't know me. I am Jen Springer, and I have been an entrepreneur since 1994. I almost said 99, but 1994. My dad incorporated my first company for me when we were first importing horse equipment from England. And I went over to England and met saddle makers and like the whole thing, right? And always had encouragement of having my own business. Well, my mom and my grandmother were both entrepreneurs, so I was always encouraged. I always had that around me. And I'm not the type of person that liked being in a corporate environment. Like sitting at a desk and being told what to wear and how much I was going to get paid and all that stuff was not this person's favorite thing. I was like, why do I have to wear these clothes, when I want to be comfortable? Or if I want to make more money, how do I do that? And there was only one way to do that, and that's through having a business. You are working for a business, you might be lucky to get a 2.2% raise. That's kind of the average of inflation. So, really, if you're working a job that doesn't even get you raises that way, which some don't every year, you're actually making less and less money every year. And I thought, because I was in HR, I thought, I am I can't, like, I was projecting the numbers in the future. I say, well, if I don't ever get a big promotion, that I am gonna not make a lot of money, And I was doing pretty well for my age at the time in my 20s, but I thought, I want to make real money. I want to be able to, do the things I want to do with my schedule and live where I wanted. I wanted to make $10,000 a month. And back in the 25, 30 years ago, that was a lot of money. Unfortunately, now in business, the new 10,000 is actually 30K a month. Yes, Angel, you could definitely be in charge of your own raises. And that's the thing when you're an entrepreneur, you are. Because, when I talk to people about their business, that want to work with us and they apply to talk to us, and then we go through and do a conversation. Everybody, and I've done thousands of phone calls, everybody wants to make 10K a month. Well, the new 10K is actually 30K with inflation and everything of the cost of the expenses of everything going up. I mean, that's the real number. I mean, 10K was like, 20 years ago. So how do we do that? And we do that through having our own business. But then the next question is, well, what kind of business am I going to have? And how am I going to get started? Right? And so there's so many ways. A lot of people in my Skool community, they're in network marketing businesses and home-based businesses of that nature. I work with people that have all kinds of small businesses, from eyelash studios to blinds and painting interior, like coaches. I work with so many different types of people. But the whole thing really comes down to is how do we promote these businesses? And when I started my network marketing business, I built that business the way that I knew how, which was through good old fashioned hoofing it out there into the community, trade shows, vendor events, and anywhere I could get a table to promote my business is how I did it. Now, this was years and years and years before AI. This was years and years and years before social media. This was the old fashioned get out there and meet people. I mean, I would run ads in the local paper, I would get on every community calendar. And I did it that way. Now, it worked. I grew to a multi seven-figure sales every year in that company. I think it was about $2.5 million a year is what I grew that to, multi six-figure earning. And the thing was is that it was a lot of work, a lot of work. Like and everything is a lot of work that's I think that's worth it. There's no magic button that you push and you start growing this massive business, for making a lot of money. But there there's ways now that in business that we can really shortcut that time frame and make things easier for ourselves. Now, is that through AI? Is it through buying a franchise? I mean, there's so many ways you look at like, well, how can I leverage my time for what I am going to do with my business? And so throughout the years, when I was growing, my especially offline, and then comes the internet. And this was about 2007 when Facebook came on the scene. We had MySpace, we had all this stuff. And I thought, this is the future of business. And I studied it and I studied it and I invested money into my education. And I knew that this was going to be the thing. Except it took me 7 years to figure it out, by the way. It took me a long time, about $30,000 of my own money before I cracked it. And since then, I am continually learning in masterminds, taking courses to stay ahead of everything. And also to keep sharpening my own skills as a copywriter, as an ad strategist, as a business strategist. And I will tell you one thing, there's only one way into success. There's only one path. And there are no shortcuts, like real shortcuts. I mean, there's shortcuts in your day where you can leverage tools and make, instead of having a whole team of like designers, you can use technology now the way we can. But there is no, I'm starting a business today and AI is going to get me $2 million by the end of this year. That's just not the way it's going to be. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about that because I use AI somewhat. Is anybody here? I'm curious if you're using AI already, drop it in the chat. I'm curious, how are you using it if you are, or if you're just like curious about it? I just want to know what people are doing with AI. I mean, everybody who knows about ChatGPT, right? Everybody's heard about ChatGPT. Everybody's heard about um, the AI. Yeah, you've used it, Ramona, Wanda, you've used it. Everybody's heard about that. Now when you go on Facebook, there's like you make a post, it'll say, do you want to, do you want help writing this? Like you can't think about writing a comment on your own. AI companion, you do a search on, yeah, Ronnie, you've got it, but you haven't used it. Here's the thing. I think that it is very powerful. And here, one of the things that I do want to frame is that AI has been around a really long time. And we called them programs. And AI is a program that has its own. You're probably familiar with the other word, algorithm, where you've got a program that is progressively learning and changing. And this has been around a really long time, but the last few years have gotten, really I don't want to say a lot of momentum around, use flipping that word to AI, because we would say on Facebook, the Facebook ad would go out there and then the algorithm would show it to the right people and things like that. And then as your ad account got more aged, it would learn who your ideal client is and things like that. Well, now we flip that word algorithm to AI. It's a flip of the word. It's kind of like when the word was flipped from, for us people that have been around a while on this planet, we used to call them computer programs. Well, now everything is an app, right? And even for your computer, it's like apps. And you're like, wait a minute, we called these programs, we first started. Like, what's the program we're going to use? Well, now they're all applications and they're apps. So it's kind of like, this has been around a long time, but the use for us had, to the public for writing ads and doing presentations and making images and all this stuff is really been in just the last couple years. I remember when it first really hit, when the first programs came out like Jasper.ai. Jasper was one of the first that was trained for businesses, and it was probably like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't remember, something like that, and starting to learn about it then. But there was one thing I want to say. My morning drink is so good I can't stop drinking it. There's a lot of temptation with using AI, and the problem is with it, for writing your ads or writing your posts for social media, or writing it for, blog posts or things like that, is here's my biggest issue with it is you have to know how to write before you can have AI write for you. And the reason is because if you just tell ChatGPT to go write me a Facebook ad about my coaching business, it's going to give you it. What it does is it goes out to the internet where it just conglomerates everything out there and pulls back to you what it has done basically in a search. And you must know the strategies in the conversion of copy. If you can't write an ad yourself from scratch that can convert at a click-through rate of at least 2% and a conversion of at least 50% on an opt-in, you have no business using AI to write ads for you. I'm just going to tell you because you have to know how to write. Writing ads, you can have good grades in English, right? You can have good grades in English. You might be a poet. You could have good writing skills, and you might have good writing, like, that's very engaging and things like that. You could, author types. But writing copy for advertising and presentations and conversions, that type of ads or that type of AI or copywriting, it's very psychological. And if you can't launch an ad today in the ads manager and get it to sell that fast, that means that component of knowledge is missing. And AI may or may not be able to help you with that, because even the best, I work with some of the top copywriters in the world that I personally work with in Mastermind. And two of them will come right out and say it will only, even the best prompts and the best, like, things that you put in will only get you 80% of the way there. You still have to be able to polish it another 20%. And I'm talking like the top copywriters. I know the best way that we use AI is for idea generation. Idea generation, because what happens is we think a certain way. Each one of you thinks a certain way. And you are, you know, we get like these blinders. You're like stuck looking down a certain road. And I know that's for myself. Like I get that way. I think a certain way, especially the way I write and the way that I perceive my business and the way that, my prospects are going to perceive my business. And I think AI is very valuable for giving me ideas or what are topics for posts I could make, or you've got to use it in a way that can bring you these ideas that are going to help you kind of like get out of your own head and help you see different perspectives. That I think is extraordinarily valuable. Or if you take an ad that you've written and you put it into the chat GPT or Llama or Claude or whatever you're going to put it in, and you feed it in, and every one of those algorithms is going to give you a different response, by the way, every one of them. Even Grok will give you a different one. Grok is more thinking. Claude, what was the one? There's one that's also another thinking one. I think it's Claude is a big thinking strategy type of algorithm. But when you are when you're using these things, it'll come back and help you with that. You could take your ad and put it in and say, okay, how can this be better? Can you analyze this? Is there grammatical structure? Can you help me clarify it? But the structure that you put in is already something that your own stuff is probably 75 to 80% there. So if you have it write it for you, even if you have the best prompts and you've got to train your algorithm correctly to give you the right, information back to you. Like if you go into ChatGPT right now and you're just like, I want you to help me write an ad about my coaching business, it's going to give you back a pile of garbage. But as you train it on how you write, but you also have to put in the structures of it to train it according to structures that are known to convert as well. So like even if you're like, well, here's, write like me, well, to be very clear on if you're a copywriter that can get extraordinary results in your ads, even my stuff gets great conversions, and I help a ton of clients write their ads, like thousands of ads, and we don't use AI on those ads. We write them all by hand. And when we, when we feed that into the algorithm and we're training it how I write and how, the formulas that I use, it still brings it back where we need to fix it. Even like because it can't think beyond like, yeah, we say, oh, Grok can think, or, Claude can think. It's got the thinking capability or whatever. It's still not human with human perspective. Also, context is not factored into the response. Even though you can say this is the context, it's still just going out there and searching the internet and pulling together things and presenting it to you with what it does. I mean, ultimately, it's a program, and it can get pretty good, that's for sure. But I see a lot of people that are relying on, you know, yeah, relying on it for doing all their work. And it's concerning. And then I talk to them and they're like, well, I'm using this and I have, I'm getting a lot of clicks and stuff on my ads, and people are, they're commenting, but I'm not getting any sales or nobody's opting in. And the thing that does that is the psychology that's behind the copy, which is typically completely invisible. You can, like I said, the people that, we have conversations about it, the people that, I work with for copywriting, they say the same thing. It's missing that element of, where we come from with intention that we want to attract, and also really putting together the logic, because when we write an ad, we've got to bring that prospect through a journey, and we've got to bring them through a journey from, interruption marketing on Facebook or Instagram or, TikTok or whatever you're doing. We're doing interruption marketing. It's not intent marketing like Google searches. And we're grabbing for their attention. And we've got to take that focus and transform it into a response. And that is the whole goal of writing an ad. And the same as if you're doing a video script, or if you're doing a you're doing like a blog post or whatever it is. We're always transforming the way they think. We're always transforming them into a new idea to take an action. And so, yeah, Angel said, the best advice anyone ever gave me is think about ChatGPT as a buddy, and don't be afraid to say, no, I don't like that. Please change this. Or what do you mean? Yeah, it's more like a companion and a sounding board. And then when people think of it that way, that is a way more successful way to use the tool. However, there are a lot of people out there that are cranking out, and I'm in a couple of these different AI Facebook groups where they're just cranking out so much garbage, like posts and things like that, like massive amounts, because you can ask the ChatGPT or whatever, please give me 30 posts on XYZ topic, use this framework, or even without a framework, take this topic, give me 30 posts. These are my ideal audience. And that's what most people do. You're not going to get like really deep into what the prospect is, going to want, but it's going to give you like encyclopedia type of stuff. But the biggest issue that we are going to face this year, especially in the next, I would say the next year or two, but I think we're really going to see it in the next 12 months. It's already starting to happen where we are going to see a massive, massive saturation with AI, giving us so much content that everybody's able to now, quote, write in a way where there are so many people just cranking out massive, I mean, if you sit down and you do a post every day using ChatGPT, and you have it write you a weekly or bi-weekly blog post, and then you have it write you presentations and emails and text marketing, that's still a lot of work, I'm just going to tell you. But secondly, now you're generating so much content, and then everybody else on the internet is creating so much content that people, it's like, if you ever hear about, like, if you, especially like when you were back in school, you have the teacher that's always talking, and all of a sudden you just tune it out, right? You had the teacher that you just, for some reason, you didn't get along with that one, or they didn't talk in a way that was engaging, or you would sit in the back of the room and you were trying to stay awake, holding your eyelids open. That's what's going to happen. It's starting to happen, but I'm seeing right now where people are still responding pretty good, but we're going to hit a point of massive saturation where there's so much content. Then the question's going to be, how do you stand out when that happens? So when we're using AI, like as a junior copywriter in a way to really help give us the framework, like my junior copywriter runs through people's ads, client ads before it comes to me. So it gets the ad back into the right framework and the right structure. It has the components that we need in order to bring the prospect through the psychological journey to the click, And so that it's brought back into frame, and then it's given to me, and then I finish and polish it. And even though that person has done just hundreds of ads, I still have to go in and always fix things, always fix things. And when we launch ads to the Facebook to the public, 99% of the time, they're winners right out of the gate. There might be some tweaks, as we get into over time, but 90, like our results are extremely high because I mean, I've written thousands of ads, but we get even the bad ads that we write using the frameworks that we use are better than most of the ads that AI are writing because there are complete there's different types of frameworks. There's two that I teach. One is called the cheeky ad, the other one's called the problem is ad. And those two ads we've been using for years, especially for people that are getting started. It really helps give people an initial framework of the psychology of the ad. And like I said, we can train the AI to do that. And there's a lot of great tools out there, that you can use in AI. And I also like to use it for, uh, grammar checks, simplification of ideas and concepts, and of course, spell check, right? There's always spell check, and it can help you write ideas for headlines. You can write, give it your ad and then ask it to give you ideas for headlines, and there's the tools that are out there. There's a lot of AI tools. And the first one that came on the scene, ChatGPT is, there's all these different algorithms where, these programs are trained on. So ChatGPT on its own is just an algorithm. It's just a program. But it's the most popular one. And there's other ones out there, but that was the one that's got like kind of the famous, one at the moment. But each one of them can be trained, and a lot of time, like I could see a lot of people that are selling softwares are actually the algorithm, they have trained it specifically to be a marketing algorithm or something like that. So, like ChatGPT is very, the biggest one. Claude is one that we use, for more of the thinking. It's good at, helping come up with ideas or strategies in general. It's got a little more intelligence in it. You've got DeepSeek, which I would not recommend using at all. DeepSeek is the one that's come from China, and there is a lot of security concerns about it. I would not use it at all. You've got Gemini, another algorithm that's popular. I don't use Gemini too much. I think it was in Gemini Microsoft, I'm pretty sure. One is Microsoft, one is Google's. You've got Grok, which is the one for Elon Musk. That's his, Grok. Llama is Facebook's algorithm that you can use to do that, to use it. I know that, let me see. Let's look at this one. Copilot is Microsoft's. Yeah. I'm just going to be honest. It's a pile of crap. Don't use it. Microsoft's Copilot is a pile of crap. Like it's really not good. It's really not new or not good. Like I'm like, what are you coming out with? I'm just like, hmm. There is Gemini is Google's. That's what I thought. I thought it might be Google, or it was either Google or Microsoft, but Microsoft's Copilot. I'm just telling you, don't go there. I still think that the most precise one is ChatGPT. It's very precise. It's very structured and very clear. The problem is it's basically an aggregate. So it's not going to do the thinking like Claude is going to do or like Grok is going to do. But they don't like very few of the algorithms can do all of it. They are good at one thing. And so you'll often have to flip back and forth between different ones. Like ChatGPT isn't going to, it's going to give you like when I'm doing social media posts, I will use Llama because it's at Facebook's, right? It's got the intelligent of Facebook's. If I'm writing, just in general, I'm using structures, but you also need to use structures in a way and train it. Like I've got prompts that I've written that are like my tonality, everything that's been analyzed in my tonality. And I use that when I'm, even rewriting my own stuff. I'm using a prompt that's my tone to instruct the tone. You've got the AI is only as good as the instructions and framework you give it, right? And so then I'll even ask it to write in, I've got the whole list of some of the top copywriters that have been known through history, and I'll compare it to my own, and I'll like run it through each one of those and see what I keep getting back. And then we keep analyzing it. And like I said, it's okay. Even when prompting and prompting and prompting, like I said, it gets me about 80% of the way there. And I find it's most helpful, especially if I'm fatigued. If I'm writing like 20 emails and like five texts and writing ad copy all in one day, which can happen, that I find that it will just get me to the point where I can just go in and fix and change the to make sure that the right frame and the right intention. Because it's, imagine like using the AI is I'm just looking at what Marjorie said. I use Claude for my grammar and I use Gemini for image. Yeah. Yeah. And check tone. Yeah. Yeah. So they're all that you need multiples like a toolbox. So, using it to help you, especially when you're fatigued, or you've got a lot of volume to do, it can definitely help with that. And I find that, you know, going back through and then I can polish it and finish it and then rewrite it from there. Like I said, it's just like having a junior copywriter. But again, you still have to know the frameworks. When we are, trained as copywriters, the, how do you want to say, 90% of what makes an ad work is psychological. It's not the words, it's what's behind the words and what the word does to the prospect. It's what the words do to make the prospect feel a certain emotion intentionally. The words will also get somebody to open up their thinking versus shutting down their thinking, especially when we're doing interrupt marketing. Good copywriting will go in and start to help people see a different way. And you can even help people change their beliefs and their perspectives through good copy. Even I'm talking about ads and I'm talking about presentations. I'm not talking about books. I'm talking about in the realm of advertising. So these are the things that are not in AI, like using AI tools. Like I said, it can help you get to a certain point, but going back and making sure that those things are there, that's going to be the main thing where you've got to go back and have the knowledge to do that, and be able to look at it and say, okay, I run it through. Is it missing this? Is it missing this? How strong is the call to action? Is it, creating and bringing up, an urgency, things like that. And that's how we use it in that particular framework. And then you can take that and then you launch it. You can when sometimes what we'll also do, and it's very helpful, is when I take my ads that have been winning for a long time and I want to refresh them because they do fatigue. Like ads, even the best ads will fatigue. A lot of my ads, I can manage them pretty well, and they'll typically last me about a year. One good ad will cost me about a year. But then if we want to refresh it and take that ad and get it to, you know, I hope that's not my car alarm going off. Somebody's car alarm is going off in my neighborhood. I hear, no, it's still going. I wonder if it's ours. Kind of sounds like a Ford. Oh well, I'll have to have Monty go check it. But in general, my ads last about a year. and before I really have to overhaul them. And if you can use the AI to help you come up with new variations of your ads, I find that that's extremely helpful, where we can feed it in and say, okay, analyze and rewrite and things like that, and then look at it, and then we can test it. We can, that's I think one of the greatest advantages, that we can come up with good ad copy and fresh headlines from that copy. This is that, you could tell it, this is the ad that we've been using, these are the headlines we've been using, and then come up with some new variants to test. So then you go in, you want to run, 5 headlines, 6 headlines at a time. We will often run 5 or 6 hooks at a time, and we're testing those things. And then we can see if we can come up with a different perspective or a different structure that outperforms our current structure. This is the way that, I will use it in order for that to happen. So, um, that's just, what we've been doing, and it works really pretty good. Also, if you want to increase the tone, some people are flat writers. They don't write with a lot of emotion in their ads or their copy. Especially emails. Emails have to be very, like, every word in an email has to be very intentional and serve a purpose, because fluffy emails take way too much time. And that is another advantage to using the AI, because we can really tighten it up. We can tighten it up, and we can add more inflection, we can add more enthusiasm or whatever tone in, in the uh, under the surface that we want to have. So that is also extremely helpful. Some of the tools that people have been using, if you've got any favorite tools, drop it in the chat. But we have uh, good old Jasper. Jasper is paid. You can go use Chat GPT. Jasper.ai is one that people will. Ooh, I think it's. I think it. Huh. Maybe. Oh, they changed the name. I think they told me it wasn't working. Oh no, it's still around. Jasper's still around. I was told actually the other day, and I was surprised that Grammarly has um, really kicked up the AI, the tools that they have, is they've gotten really good, which I don't use Grammarly, but I was surprised. I'm like, you mean good old Grammarly that's been around since the dawn of time? They saw an opportunity and they ran with it. They ran with it. And I thought that was flipping awesome to hear. I use a tool called Abacus. Abacus has all the algorithms in it, and that's what I like. But the thing is, even with, like, Abacus, you have to train it. You still have to train it, but you can flip back and forth between algorithms, and I like that because I can run it through and I can see the different. It's all in one thing, so you can just flip back and forth between algorithms, but you still have to train it from scratch with your own tone and stuff like that. But I like it because I could take and feed it and have it analyze things, and then I can go and flip between Llama and ChatGPT and Grok. I mean, I can flip and see what the different answers are going to be, and or the different, I guess you say, responses to the query. But I still think that overall the ChatGPT gives me the best. But like I said, when I'm writing social media posts, I always do it according to Llama most of the time, because I want to know what Facebook's algorithm wants. No, the AI is actually an algorithm. So ChatGPT is an algorithm, Grok is an algorithm, Claude is an algorithm. So that we're calling it AI, but an algorithm has always been AI. Like I said, yeah, yep. And so it's all of those are inside of it. All of those are inside of it. So I can flip back and forth between the different algorithms, which are ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, Mini, DeepSeek is in there, but don't touch that one. There's a couple other ones in there that are kind of like off the wall, in there. There's one other one that I use a lot. I think the ones I use the most are ChatGPT, Claude, and Llama are the three that I use the most. But that's just me. I mean, everybody's got their own thing. But I like that I can flip it because they're all different. They're all different programs. I mean, really is what it comes down to. So they all have different ways that they're built, the different ways they're thinking. Grok is even, I think Grok has got a thinking mode in there. Um, no, it's got a thinking mode in Sonnet, Claude Sonnet. It was funny because it looks different than it did yesterday. Yesterday actually said thinking mode next to Claude. It was funny. See, they change these things all the time. Gemini Google's is in here too. That's why it's just a real cheap tool. It's $10 a month for what you get. I mean, I think it's easy, so you're not having to flip. And what it does is it retains, like, so if you're doing a query, you can flip back and forth between them. You can flip back and forth between them really simple. And it will retain and reflect in that chain of thought. So you put in whatever raw material you're putting in there, and then you can have each one of those algorithms analyze it. So I do like that. It's $10, but again, you got to train it. I mean, like I've been training it for about a month, and what it was giving me at first was complete garbage. Like it was trash. Like I was like, this is just shit. And as I keep working with it and training it, it's getting better. But I'm also giving it frameworks, and I'm giving frameworks of my own, and having it stay within those parameters of different. So think of the framework of an ad as the structure. An ad has a structure that's underneath it, and kind of like a story in a movie. You've got your opener, you've got your, it builds up to a problem and then it comes to an end. Ronnie, you train it by just keep feeding it information, asking it to analyze different things. It's like having a puppy, and you got to potty train it, and it's like it does get better over time. Asking, yeah, it learns. I mean, that's the one thing, is it does learn, but the thing is, if you've got to have the knowledge to train it. That's the thing. You've got to, the whole point. Like, I love it. I love technology. I'm like the biggest techno geek that ever walked the earth. But the thing is, you have to have the knowledge in order to train it properly. You've got to have the frameworks. You've got to know what works. I can look at an ad and I can tell you if it's going to work or not. And what, or most likely, most likely it's going to run or not. And I'd say 99% of the time we can nail it right out of the gate. And here's the thing, that knowledge, has come through study and learning. It's not an experience of running millions of dollars of ads. And that ChatGPT isn't just going to replace that. It's not going to know what's going to convert appropriately and really, give that result. Even if you ask Facebook's algorithm to give you winning ad structure and stuff like that, it has no idea. Like it has zero idea. Like it comes back with a pile of poop. And it's like, okay, well, I was hoping that it would have that knowledge of winning ads in the database, and it does not. So it's just for more like fluffy, like social media posting. So you've got to know that structure to be able to do that. And then it's just, the AI is just as good as the tool of the person. It's, how do I say? It's just as good as the person running it. And that's the thing that I think is so important, because I see so many people using it as a shortcut. And I'm like, well, it is, if you have the training and the skill. It's like a Formula 11 driver can get a car to go around the track at crazy speeds, right? And they can get it to perform in ways that we can't even imagine. And we would get behind that wheel and we'd probably wind up hitting the gas and flipping the thing over, And that's the same like with this. We've got these incredible tools, but now, I don't know how, like, like especially younger folks. I was thinking about this the other day, even when you go into your Facebook and you are you go in and you're going to make a comment. I don't know if this one did it. It did it the other day to me. This one didn't do it. There was some comment on here and I was looking and I'm like, what? I started laughing. I'm like, it was like something about a happy birthday. And it wanted me like, do you need AI help to write? I'm thinking, what's going to happen to these young people? You know, are they actually going to learn how to write? And I know, I mean, it's like, okay, they're cutting words in half using these abbreviations. We're using so many emojis. They're not writing with their hand. And I think that, I go to this space, like what's going to happen in the long run with people? Where is this going? Because I firmly believe that there is a very high level connection between what happens to your when you use your hand and your brain. Like one stimulates the other, and especially in learning. And so when we would write good old fashioned like writing on paper, it's not the same as when we would type. And there's, what's going to happen to those neural pathways? That's where I go. What's going to happen with these young people that can't even add or subtract? I've noticed, if anybody who's noticed this as well, I found that a lot of younger folks don't know how to spell worth a dang. They don't know how to spell. Like I see them spelling without a spell check, and I'm like, well, they don't know how to spell the English language. And so I think that some of these things we have to use in moderation. That's just my opinion, and that's why I'm such a firm believer of you've got to know how to write ads successfully before you start writing ads using AI. Just it's the same as you need to learn how to spell and do math before you're using all these other things so that you are you actually know how to write. You got your basic reading, writing, and arithmetic skills. And a lot of schools and teachers have come down on the AI and you can't use it. But the problem is, how are they really going to know if somebody really knows how to use it? Like without it sounding like an encyclopedia. Does anybody notice you put your stuff in there, it comes back like an encyclopedia, but over time you will train it. How is the teacher really going to know? I mean, it's going to be interesting. We live in a very, very interesting time. We're a very, very interesting time. As I wrap up here, I do want to, and most of you, I think I see a lot of names already that are enrolled. I am doing my very first uh, mini workshop this Saturday. I do have private clients, I have programs for that, and you know, I have that, but I'm doing my very first ad writing workshop. It's only about ad writing on Saturday. And I don't know if I'm going to do it again. Probably not in this capacity. Yay, Patty! I know quite a few I already see your names on the list. I'm doing an ads workshop because I feel like it's the number one question that people have is, well, how do I write an ad? And how do I write an ad that, like I said, in the framework or in a way that's going to get the result? And I show people, even in the school group, I do have my ad writing guide, but it's still not the same as when somebody is taking you through it. And I thought, I'm just going to do this little workshop. Like I said, I don't even know if I'm going to do it again. Probably not in this capacity, or it may be very different, or it may be a lot more money because this is a beta test. And it's a beta test. I just thought a couple weeks ago, like, I think this would be a great idea. And it's very, very low budget. It's not a high budget thing at all. It's 9 a.m. Saturday morning, the 1st, and we're going to go for 3 hours. If there's an option, um, there is an option that is just general admission, and then there's an option for if you want the recordings. So there's both. So you can get like, just straight up come and take the notes. And then there's people, I always know like when I would go to seminars, here's a funny story. So I always buy the recordings because I know that if you just listen to something, you only, even if you're a super genius, you only get 13%. Well, the funniest thing is I'm going back right now to recordings from events that I attended in 2007. I'm going back and listening because I hear it with very different ears than I did almost 20 years ago. And I'm listening to stuff that I purchased as recordings 20 years ago. And it's blowing me away. Like Monty and I are listening to it. So we have, that's why I offer the recordings. I will always offer recordings because I know, like me, I just always want to hear it over and over again. Even if we are a super genius, we only catch 13% of what it is. And the average person catches like 5 to 7% when you listen to something. Sometimes I know, especially if I'm having like a hormone moment, it's like 0% that goes in my head. But we're gonna do it from 9 to 12 Central, and I'm going to teach my two of my favorite frameworks. The VIPs, I've got a special surprise for my VIPs, and I'm thinking about doing another one. So stay tuned if you're a VIP. Mind you, a VIP is only like $97. So the regular general admission, I think, is like 47 or something like that. But I'm going to teach my cheeky ad that is one of my favorites that can be used for business opportunity or products or both. And it's a little more light, a little more lighter in the a little more cheeky, as I like to say, a little more fun than other frameworks that I use, because I think that people are reading social media and there's so much junk on there that cheeky ad is performed very, very well. Yeah, this is the framework that you could put in any type. I use it for everything. I used it for myself. I've used it for coaching. I use it for clients that have, business opportunity, clients that have products they're selling. We're using it for, I think Ronnie's using it for her dresses. I think you used the cheeky ad, Ronnie, for that one. And I'm also teaching an engagement ad structure. And the reason is because I believe engagement ads really enhance the lead generation ads. And what I've noticed in the last year, especially the last 6 months, is that we have to have an engagement ad strategy that goes along with the lead generation ad. It has to. Like it's something that I have been testing myself, and now I have my clients doing it because we are Facebook has changed a lot. We used to be able just to run ads straight out of the gate, no engagement ads, nothing, for many, many years. And in the last 6 months, 6 to 12 months, you have to have an engagement strategy that goes with your lead generation ads. So I'm teaching that. That's why I thought it was so important. And like I said, for the VIPs, I got a little extra structure for you, but and the VIPs get the recording and a couple extra templates. Like I got a little bundle of templates that are going to go with it and examples. But we find that uh, there has to be that two component strategy. It's it's a more work, but the engagement ads are very they're simpler ads, but I thought giving the framework for that. So I'm going to walk through, I'm going to give the framework, and then what's going to happen is we're going to go through and everybody's going to write along with me so that we can look at, you know, getting it done. And hopefully by the time you're done, you're gonna have an ad to go to the ads manager and pop it in there. So that's the goal. And I think we can get it done in 3 hours. Like I said earlier, writing the ad structure, I can give it to you. Like I said, but the thing is that getting it done and walking through it and getting all the context is a different thing. So, yes, I'm going to do the cheeky ad, and I'm going to do the engagement ad. And then there's a third one I'm going to do for VIPs. So I'm going to put the link down here because somebody's messaging me through the link. There's a link here for registration. I do go into it a little deeper. There's a video there you can watch. Um, VIP is the same amount of time. I'm thinking about doing something a little bit extra beforehand. So I'm just, but here's the thing, guys. I'm not an early morning person. Patty knows this. I am not an early morning person. So I'm like, shh, will my brain be working if I do it? Maybe I'll even record it as a video. Because I'm like, if we're meeting at 2 a.m., I'm super good, right? Like, I'm like, let's do it at midnight. Who'd be down with that one? But like in the morning, I'm like, 9 a.m. is like, it's when my brain is working. 8 a.m., I think it's still out on another planet, So I just laugh so hard. But I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. So there might be an extra component, which I'm gonna surprise. There's a lot more that's gonna go with the VIP, the recordings, the second I gotta, well, it would be a third template, and then I've got a bunch of examples going with it. But I'm thinking about one more thing, which I might surprise my VIPs with. So I'm just going to say that, but I'll be announcing it probably today's Wednesday, maybe tomorrow if I'm going to do it, especially because this is the first time. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I'm thinking about making it bigger, longer, which then it might be a bigger investment, something of that nature. But and the way I look at it is if you can learn how to write one winning ad, I mean, $50 is nothing. My copywriting, oops, I don't know if that did weird things to my audio. My copywriting mastermind that I'm in is 20 grand a year. So I think for $50, I think we can, it would be really great value for everybody. And I'm really excited to do it. So anyways, I hope that, this was good. The recordings for this, I did see a couple questions in the Skool Community. I do have the recordings from the Wednesdays in there. And Wednesdays are more of like a theory call, as we like to call it, theory call. And I'm finding that it is right. Oops, this is the classroom. This is the calendar. There's going to be more stuff popping in on the calendar, but in the classroom, the live training recordings are right here in the classroom. So you go in the classroom and you can find it. So, all right, rock stars. Well, it was wonderful to spend this time with you this morning. I just wanted to help you frame using the AI and things like that. And I will see some of you on Saturday morning. And I'll catch you back in the community when you've got questions and posts. You guys are so great. The engagement in that Skool community is like off the chain. Like it is so great. I love seeing everybody there. The reason why we created the Skool community is because if any of you have a Facebook community, do you know it's like raising the dead every time you put a post in there? like, like Facebook needs to get the algorithm going correctly for those Facebook groups. It's so difficult to see posts in Facebook groups. So I love Skool because people get notified. They can have fun in there. They don't have to worry about what they say as far as getting Facebook compliance. I just think that's great. So join over there, have fun, learn, converse with each other, have a great time. And then I will see you guys Saturday morning and be ready with some surprises. All right. So we'll see you guys. Have a great day. Bye bye.